Good morning. Real human rights is what we would like to talk about this morning. Real human rights are not made by mankind, but are simply recognized by man. Real human rights can be seen in nature and the jungle. These are rights you would have if you had no government above you at all. These are the rights from nature and the jungle that you need to protect you from your government. These real human rights would be life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, speech, assembly, family, a homestead, individual choice, the right not to be a slave, and applies to all ages, genders, races, and creeds. The right to life means that the government cannot willfully take the life of its people, even by due process, or allow the taking of your life without your consent. The right to liberty means the right not to be held before you are convicted of a crime, and the right to freely move about the country if you have not been convicted of a crime. If convicted of a crime, then you should still have freedom of movement within the detention town or city that you are restricted to, because you should still have all of your other rights. Even in prison, you have the right to work for the minimum wage and live where you please within the detention city. The right to the pursuit of happiness means the right to sexual activity. However, you only have the right to choose for yourself and cannot impose your choice on someone else without their permission. It also means the right to recreational drugs that grow naturally in nature, which would include alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, cocaine, etc. Drugs made by chemists and come from science, the government has the right to prohibit and control. The right to speech and assembly means that you can say anything you want to say, even to lie or depict criminal activity. This means you can congregate for any legal activity you wish to share with a group. You don't have a specific right to religion because this umbrella of the right to speech and assembly better covers the activity and protects society from those who would use the Creator God to get around the laws. The right to family means the government never has the right to rule over your family in and on your homestead. This means that biological parents have the right to their children, and no government or court has the right to change that. Parents have the Creator God-given right to raise their children as they see fit, and that includes having incest with their children if that's what they want. If the biological parents are no longer living together, they each retain 50% of the rights of time to spend with their children. They also retain all rights to raise their children as they see fit when those children are under their roof and in their care. The right to a homestead means the right to call a place home and have a residence to live in. If the government needs to take your residence for any reason, then the government needs to compensate you for the fair market value of your homestead, pay to relocate you, and provide a place of equal or greater value. However, you can always choose to live where you want. The right to individual choice. The right to choose for yourself, and only for yourself, is the very definition of freedom. Whenever you choose for another, as an individual or a collective, this is the opposite of freedom, especially when it's majority rule. If someone else is telling you what to do, whether it's a one person or 10 people or a billion people, that's an act of ruling. It's not an act of freedom. The right not to be a slave. This is really part of the right to liberty. However, because of the history of man and the abhorrent nature of this condition, it deserves specific definition and declaration. Slavery can come in many forms, such as not being paid enough to live on and having no reasonable choices. Being blamed for your lack of personal skills and resources, such as intelligence and education, is an abhorrent method of casting a group of people into a lower caste system and a slave system. It is the government's responsibility to provide livable wages, education, and jobs for 100% of its citizens. The right not to be tortured or treated inhumanely seems to be a basic concept of human rights and certainly should be applied. All of these rights, with their limitations, apply to all ages, genders, races, and creeds. Other freedoms and rights that don't come from the jungle but would be nice to have are free medical care. You see, you don't get medical care in the jungle. Interest-free loans without fees attached for all lending activity. You don't get loans in the jungle. There isn't any money in the jungle, you see. Transparent government. You don't have a government in the jungle. At least not one you can see. Elimination of monopolies. Zero poverty, etc. You get the idea. So, these are human rights. These are the real human rights, you see, those that are rights that you would normally see in the government as though you had no government above you. That's the way you understand what human rights are. That's the way you define human rights. And they are essential to take from the jungle those things you need to be protected from your government with, you see. The rights you want to get from the jungle are those rights that you need to protect yourselves from your government. There are other rights in the jungle that you don't want, such as the right to commit murder or the right to steal. You see, obviously you want your government to restrict those things, and you don't want those recognized as basic human rights, even though they are rights that come from the jungle. But those are the only two, really, that I can think of that you would want to restrict that come from the jungle. Have a nice day.